Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the Adulting is Easy podcast, where we make adulting easier by making money easier. This is your host, Lauren. And I'm joined today by Joe Chan. He and his team are property managers for short term rentals at a handful of condo hotels in Miami. They also clean and turn over properties for other hosts. As a licensed realtor, Joe also helps owners acquire and manage their dream vacation homes. And when it's time to move on, he helps them sell it to the next owner. Thanks for joining me, Joe.
Thanks for having me, Lauren. I'm a big fan of the show.
Awesome. Well, let's hear from TouchStay really quick before we dive in. Are you looking for operational gains and brand build? Meet the easy to use platform that transforms your docs, PDFs, and emails into branded information that guests read and engage with time and again. TouchStay is in the business of helping hectic hosts and managers kill the time burn with simple technology. They help you to reinforce your brand through communication, skyrocket the guest experience, and create raving, loyal fans. Their digital guest welcome books are rich with features including guest email collection and first impressions feedback capture, plus free email and SMS guest memos, in addition to providing a single place of information and inspiration to get your guests excited for their stay, appreciative of their offering, and happy as Larry, as they say in the UK, to tell everyone about it. Guests love TouchStay digital guidebooks so much that they mention them in their reviews. Want to look good every time someone has a question? Look up touchstay.com and start a 14-day free trial today. So our goal for today, Joe, is to make adulting easier for listeners by discussing a personal finance topic, since managing money is a big part of adulting. So let's talk about short-term rentals. How long have you been in this business?
Investing as far as like buying properties, probably a year and a half now. But I have been in the short-term rental space probably for 8 years total, rental arbitrage and property management. But currently, I only do property management.
Can you tell us what rental arbitrage is real quick?
Yeah, so you basically take on a lease, you sublet, and you make the difference between the rental income and whatever you collected for short-term rental, whether it's Airbnb, VRBO. So that difference, it's what you profit on. But yeah, you're just basically subleasing a property, and the owners are allowing you to rent out their space to others.
That's key, is getting the permission from your landlord to do
Yeah,
that.
it's all in the contracts.
So property management also, can you describe what your duties are as a property manager of a short-term rental?
Well, if I could sum it up really quick, it's basically everything a landlord would do, and you just give them a check at the end of the month, you know. But no, the duties. So we have to make sure we prepare the space ready for Airbnb or short-term rental. We decorate the place. We have guests check in, check out. We turn over the units after every checkout. Um, yeah, I mean, just all of that, and then we just give them a check at the end of the month.
That sounds pretty nice. What do you charge for that?
Ooh, okay. So it ranges, and we're a little bit different from all the other management company where I feel like it's more like I have to work with you. So I charge anywhere from 20 to 25% of the net. So after expenses, after taxes, after everything, even if you had to fix something, that net amount that we get, we charge anywhere from 20 to 25%. And the reason we charge from 20 to 25, it depends if you open the calendar up with us the whole year, or you just want to use us for one day, that ranges. And then also, some people have multiple units, so we give them a discount for that too. But 20 to 25% is really what we charge off
Of
the
the net.
off
Is
the
it
net.
is that isn't that atypical? Wouldn't it normally be of gross?
It's usually the gross, yeah, but we just don't find it. We find this a long-term relationship. So, if you're taking losses, I want to take losses with you. That's how I see it.
That's incredible. So how many are you managing right now?
15. I have
Wow.
15 units in Miami. No, WoW was when I had 50 units doing subleasing. Pandemic hit, was losing $40,000 a month just trying to pay these owners. And I just said, I can't do this. Everything that I've made before in the past, it's just going towards this. That was all my money. And so then I realized, let me take a step back. There was two buildings that I was managing in Miami that had a higher standard, higher quality. So I said, I'm just going to focus in managing at these condo hotels, and I'm going to be really good at it. So currently 15, but I had turned down many because they just were not in line with my mindset and the quality that I wanted. So I just maybe passed them to another manager. But yeah, 15 currently.
So some people think that, you mentioned COVID. Naturally, everything shut down. You weren't able to rent Airbnbs, VRBOs, short-term rentals legally, really. Um, and some people think there's been this big swing after that, this huge boom basically in 2021 and 2022 of short-term rentals. And some people think that gravy train is coming to an end coming up here. What do you think? Like, is Airbnbust real? What does the future hold for these things?
So this was the longest part of my segment. I was waiting for the other question, but since we're gonna get down to it, is it fine if I just share a story of my background and how I came to this and why I think it's not Airbnb bust, but it's Airbnb plateau,
Okay.
basically?
Yeah, I love it.
So yeah, I was an entrepreneur. Since the age of 16, had my first LLC, sold flowers on the street. My mother sold artificial flowers, wedding favors, and stuff like that. So I was like, hey, let me sell these teddy bears on Valentine's Day, gift baskets, and that's how I got my first LLC and everything. Got my feet wet, and this was all in high school. Um, Moved on to another trend. I don't know if you knew about eBay. Like everybody was selling video game consoles, uh, and I definitely found my way into that. I found a way to purchase these consoles when nobody was able to get them, and that's another story for another day. But I was essentially making almost $40,000 a month, but that $40,000, when I started doing wholesale, it got less and less. And that craze for eBay selling Wii or PS3s or whatever it was, video game consoles, it died down. Same thing when I went into Amazon. There was a FBA fulfillment by Amazon, this and that, a huge craze. Okay, got into that. And then that died down too. Uber, people were making $800, what was it, like every day, or driving their expedition or whatever. They're like, I could cover the cost of gas. Now you hear it more and more from Uber drivers. I could barely pay my rent. I feel like Airbnb is not that it's going to leave us. I feel like it's going to, the profit margins are going to diminish. It's going to be less and less, and only the people that do it right will stand out, or somebody that creates a brand. uh Let me move to how I think, I how I think I could fix this problem, like, with what I'm trying to do. So one of the things, through my ups and downs that I did was I moved to Taiwan and we created this dog resort. uh it's a doggy like Disney World, you could say. And people traveled all over, from the main cities to just come down here. I mean, when we did this, it was like we had lines of people outside waiting to get in early in the morning. And they said, wow, Sinjo, we called it Sinjo, Cynthia and Joe. So Cynthia was my wife. I mean, she's still my wife. Cynthia's my wife. Joe. So Cynthia and Joe, that was our creativity at that time. But my wife had a passion for dogs. And, at that time, we said, let's do this doggy resort thing and let's see how it goes. Exploded. It exploded. And we're like, these people, when they travel 4 hours to here, kind of like Disney World, there's no place for them to stay. So they have to travel 4 hours back. So right away, that's where the mindset of, oh, I got to create short-term rental thing. Uh, it's been just so many different things. We distributed dog products for a different brand. Um, a certain product that I don't know if I should speak of, but basically $500,000 spent there, all in trade shows, marketing, and everything. And we realized it wasn't going to us. It was building somebody else's brand. And we said, you know what, forget this. We're going to build this brand. You know, my wife, we take our basically fan base. We have about 40,000 likes, I think, in the Facebook page of Girona Park. And we take our clients' dogs and we actually draw them. And then we use them for like sandals, beach gear, and everything. And then they have something that they could keep, and then we have something. So this whole thing of just building a brand is where I think, well, how I'm going to kind of like fight this Airbnb bus or whatever, this plateau, but brand recognition, like you got to build your own brand. The whole thing with even people that are moving now to the midterm space, that's going to deplete. That's eventually going to deplete because like everybody, by the time that they jump on this ship, it's already too late. It is what it is, you know? So that's how I feel personally. But I've been through so many ups and downs and so many what I call business trend and fads. And that's what it is. Airbnb is a trend. And we're just riding this as long as we could until people who had mortgages based off of short-term rental, they start selling. They start getting rid because they can't keep up, you know, they're losing money now. So I personally think that you have to have a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you know? So the whole thing with Airbnb bus, they're gonna be here. They're gonna stay here. Uber is gonna stay here. They're going to figure out ways to be more innovative, but the margins from people, I think it's going to start diminishing more and more. And you just have to have a backup plan for it.
That makes so much sense. I love how you told us a little bit more about your background there, but it makes sense because, and it's really important because it all contributes to this idea that I love the Airbnb plateau. That's where we're coming. And you basically have the story with all these different data and all this different experience to back that up. So that makes a lot of sense. Um, Dog resort, huh?
Yeah.
How did you get the idea to do that? I know you said your wife's into dogs, but I that's still a leap to a dog resort.
So right before, like probably 3 years before, I was living in Hong Kong. I was supposed to expand the electronic business that I had. You know, I think I told you I went from eBay to wholesaling to distributing for Nintendo, Sony, different things. And one of the things I did was reverse logistics. I focused on buying returns from Best Buy, fixing them up, and then selling them as used to other countries and stuff. Went to Hong Kong, couldn't accomplish anything. So now, you know, I just I'm giving up on that. You know, I guess I get bored really quick. You can say that. But then my wife was like, "What are we gonna do?" I was like, "What do you like to do? Why don't I focus on you? You know, I'm pretty good at figuring out things, but what do you like? You know, well, I like dogs. So we started a monthly box subscription. At that time, monthly box subscription was the crap. Like everybody wanted to do monthly box subscriptions. And then I was like, why don't you do one here in Asia? Like nobody has this. So that stemmed from, okay, now my wife's parents, you know, they did have some money. So they're like, well, why don't you take it to another level? So that's when we walked the trade show, and then we started looking for products of what we could put in those monthly box subscription. We got a little greedy when we saw that we could have the rights to a certain patent or a product and stuff. We decided to take the contract for the whole world. Hence, $500,000 gone. You know, that could have been spent on real estate, right? So at that time, I was like, Cynthia, we're building somebody else's brand. You graduated out of the Florida Arts Institute. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. Are we not that creative enough to just do something? And we had two dogs, a golden retriever and a Westie. And we said, why don't we just open a dog resort with our two dogs' name on it? One, my golden retriever's name was Corona at that time. No, not COVID, but the beer. We named them after the beer. And Jojo was the Westie. So we're like, let's call it Girona Park. Let's start by building a pool, then building a restaurant, the upstairs restaurant, then a boutique store, then grooming, then all of this stuff. And then like when we actually opened the doors, there was hordes of line. We couldn't handle it. We didn't know what was going on. So that was my like taste of like, wow, this is what success actually feels like. And if you own the whole thing, it feels really good. You're not selling somebody else's stuff. The short-term rental thing was just, we need to find a way to put a bed and breakfast or something in that resort and have control and have full control. So you come in, you play with your dog all day long. There's a place for you to stay overnight, and then you go back. So yeah, that it has changed over the years, from trial and error, from figuring out how do we use well water, how do we filter out this water. I mean, we're talking about huge pool there, and then from the the grooming equipments, which one works, which one doesn't. It's been just a huge learning curve, but we think we kind of got it perfected. I mean, a lot of people that they open their own little resort or whatever, they tend to use the stuff that we're using because we already tried it out and everything. But yeah, that's how my wife and how we came up with it. It was just like, what is your passion? You love dogs? Okay. Why can't we do this?
I love the direction this conversation has taken because we talk about short-term rentals like it's real estate investing, and we talk about real estate investing like it's its own unique thing, but it is a business. And I think people sometimes forget about that, and they don't think about what's my competition, how they don't have a pricing strategy, they're not tracking their numbers, they're not thinking about how to innovate, what they need to do, how to stay ahead, and where they want to go in the future. And I always say, I knew when I bought, for example, my bed and breakfast, which I'm sitting in right now, I knew when I bought that I was going to change this property. I didn't know this property was going to change me. And I'm going to amend that today and say I didn't know that owning a business, I didn't know the effect that that was going to have on me as a person. It's made me so much more resilient and so much more capable and so much more confident. And I feel like those are the themes that I'm hearing from you is when you get started, things can be a little bit hard, but as you go, it's almost like there is not one thing that I am not going to be able to figure out. I don't care if it's a well at an Olympic sized pool at a doggy resort. I'm going to figure it out. Right.
I think going through all those hurdles, the ups and down, it just gets you stronger and stronger as you go. You start facing other trends, other business coming up. You're like, this is a piece of cake. It's just the same thing over and over again, right? Uh, but yeah, but you have to face them. I want to give you an example. If you don't mind, if I could talk about the Hudson property. Uh, I
Absolutely.
bought that knowing my numbers because I'm a realtor and I've already been doing property management. But I want to mention that a lot of stuff is not calculated precisely. It's just done on either emotions or you just know it's gonna make money. So at that time, my dad, here's a personal matter. My dad went through cancer, and it was one of the darkest time of my life. Chemo, radiation every day. Just seeing this man cry, and it hurt me.
Oh,
And finally, we got through all that, and then one thing after another, my dog dies, my bird dies, and it felt like collapsing. And then you start looking at all of these things like, what are you doing all of this for cap rates, for margins? So I said, you know what, I'm going to get a property that I could enjoy, that I'm passionate about. What am I passionate about? I love fishing. 4 in the morning, you catch me fishing anywhere. So I said, I need to have something on the water. Most people spend their time trying to save up money to get the place that they want. I said, no, I'm going to use Zillow. I'm going to use the filter, and I'm going to say, what is the cheapest? I know it has to be a multifamily duplex on the water in the whole state of Florida that I could get right now.
yeah.
Because I'm an entrepreneur and I don't have a W-2. So this is what I could afford. Boom, Hudson, Florida. And I was like, where's Hudson? I don't care, but there looks like there's fish there. So I'm going over there. So I go there And I'm like, what's, I don't even know if my wife wants to come here, you know? But then I start going to, you know, Leisure Beach. I was like, no, this is beautiful. Why doesn't more people know about Hudson? So then you start creating those business plans, the A, B, C, D, E, F, G that I told you about. And you're like, you know, and one thing I didn't tell you that I dabbled into Section 8 and assisted living. You know, silver tsunami. I don't know if the listener knows about that. Basically, baby boomers, they're retiring soon, and that big wave is going to come and hit all of us. But I understood that, you know, there's a certain amount of beds you could put on a certain amount of units that you can't do on a single family house. Um, and I know that we're pretty close to a hospital, you know, and it is a place that's kind of for retirement. So that entrepreneurship mindset starts kicking in, kind of like what you said, how you could repurpose a place when you start seeing these vision, you know, you start saying, oh, what if I could own 3 units back to back? You know, what if I could start renting out boats with something called boat setter instead of using, you know, like kind of like the Turo for cars, but it's one for the boat. What if I could put some sort of rental for boat rental? Okay. What if I could make this like a corporate event place that like you have corporate companies come in, you know, spend $8,000 for 1 night, 2 nights or whatever, and then you do an all inclusive. So your brain starts moving in a different direction because of all that you have done in the past. And you could implement that to any business that you have, right? So yeah, Hudson was believe it or not, I I just that's what I did to get started. You know, a lot of people are like, no, you got to run the numbers. I already ran the numbers. The numbers has already been ran. You know, you use AirDNA or whatever it is, but that wasn't at that moment. It wasn't about only money. You know, so I guess people don't really see this. Like everything, sometimes it's all about the numbers, but sometimes passion, uh, creativity, it will allow you to make that extra amount, those cap rates that you never seen or even dreamed about. I think that's what it takes, you know. Airbnb, with people being competitive right now, you know, what are you seeing? They're offering free stuff, free amenities now, like a bottle of wine, you know, free cable. And you're gonna start seeing they're just offering more and more until they're like, oh man, I can't afford this anymore. So that's what I see. But yeah, another stand, just trying to offer another level of standard that just your competitors can't or they won't, and just roll with that. But you have to see that. I think that comes from the entrepreneurial mindset. And that's what you definitely have right now. Um, uh, House that I have in St. Pete, which I'm in right now. I'll tell you another creative thing that I'm thinking about. So I didn't know about the Pinellas Trail. I didn't know how big the Pinellas Trail is and how big of a deal it was. So the Pinellas Trail is right behind my house. Literally, you open the the
Me
fence.
too. One block that way. So you know what that means? We can bike to each other's house.
Oh, really?
It's one block that way from here. Yeah.
So when we saw this 2 bedroom, uh 2 bath, you know, a lot of people were like, oh, that's too small, you know, how out of 10,000 square feet lot. Sorry, is that 10,000 feet? I don't know, quarter acre. Uh, and I was like, can't we just simply put an ADU in the back or something? What about tiny home? You know, yeah, what if I can convert that lanai into another space and then package that all in a deal where you could enjoy the Pinellas Trail, you know, with an e-bike or whatever. You could go to Central in St. Petersburg, enjoy, in downtown, have a drink there, you know. So every place that I've invested in, it's not where I manage, but it's pretty unique in its own way. And I really, this is probably the first podcast that I am broadcasting this out to. I don't even pitch this to owners, but this has just been in my mind. Nobody, yeah, I don't tell anybody like that I manage for, you know, what I do in Taiwan, but I already had like a mindset coming back from Taiwan of what I wanted in real estate before even this short-term rental stuff. Yeah. So I know I'm all over the place. I'm crazy like that. Like I'm sorry, we were supposed to talk about just short-term rental, but it changed to the entrepreneurship. But I think you have to see my past to see where I'm going in the future. I think that's one of the questions. And I think that's where I'm heading. I want to own properties that I am proud of. I don't want to have 300 multifamily C-class that I don't even want to deal with. I want to give me 10, but they're resort like that when I go there with my family, I could enjoy it, that I'm proud of, and my family will talk about and rave about it. If you can't understand that, then how could you understand what a client really wants when they're booking an Airbnb rental? What is how can you understand what type of vacation they really want, you know? So I said, okay, this is what I want, you know? So yeah.
So just a little background for the listeners, since you brought up Hudson. Joe and I own duplexes next door to each other on the water in Hudson, Florida. And our story with that duplex is really similar to yours. Our friend bought a place just a little bit north, and we were like, well, let's look what's around there. And then I found that multifamily, and I'm like, this is the biggest duplex I've ever seen in my life. And it's on the water. I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stay here. And that saved us for a few years from buying a place in Pinellas County. So we saved some money for the last few years by not buying down here. Um, but yeah, so anything else you want to add, Joe, before we wrap up?
I think everybody just needs to try their best. You know, I'm a huge fan about positioning. Just look at who's doing what at the top level. Not saying that you're going to imitate them, and just see how can you do better than them or with what you have, you know? And there's going to be ups and downs, you know, no matter what you choose, whether it's real estate or whatever, but just be ready to face it. You know, that hurdle that we have in Hudson, I don't mind telling. I didn't expect the seawall to collapse on me. Um, you know, I that wasn't part of my calculations. A seawall doesn't do anything for the value of your property, you know, but when it collapses, it holds the foundation of your house. You better fix it. And then what are you gonna do? You're gonna hide in a cave or something? No, you go at it head straight and just figure it out, you know? Uh, yeah, I have lots of story, but my time is over. So that's all I could leave, you know, with you guys.
Well, how can they find out more about you, get in touch with you, and follow you? Things like that.
So we are expanding our cleaning business and our property management business. Uh, you could follow us. Well, you could follow us at Smart Findings, I guess, on Instagram. I say I guess because I think we have 0 followers there. Hopefully, this podcast catapults us to another level. But mopwipe.com is what a lot of people know us by. It's the cleaning business. We clean for other Airbnb hosts, and we help them out with their management too on mopwipe.com. We also do residential clean. So yeah, any of those websites, they'll lead to our virtual assistant, and then the virtual assistant will definitely send me a message. And yeah, it's not that
All
hard.
right. So smartfindings.com and mopwipe.com, those are in the show description. Everybody, you can follow me on Twitter at Adulting is Easy, YouTube at Adulting is Easy as well. This video is there if you're listening on audio and you want to see what Joe looks like, or me if you've never seen my face. I'm also on Facebook, or you can email me at realadultingiseasy@gmail.com, Instagram at Adulting is Easy Real. If you like this episode, you'll also like episode 128 about managing STRs from abroad, and episode 141 about finding short-term rental cleaners. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Hopefully, Joe and I have made adulting a little easier for you.